About 2 weeks after the Mars Science Laboratory, Curiosity, landed on Mars, it snapped this picture of its own shadow. The picture clearly shows a being with hair, doing something to the rover. NASA says, what appears to be a person is part of Curiosity.
I'm sorry, but this is freaking hair.
This is the Curiosity rover. See anything that looks like the shadow image? See anything with hair? Nothing with hair. How about goggles? No? Air tank? No? We don't either. To discredit the photograph, NASA called it a trick of light and shadow, and released a couple of joke shadow photos. One, with Optimus Prime, and another showing Curiosity blowing up rocks with its laser, which doesn't blow up rocks.
Me thinketh they protesteth too much.
What's this guy's name? Herman. Notice, the shadow on the left side has been filled in, to make it look like the real shadow picture. But, still no hair on Herman. This is supposed to be Curiosity zapping and exploding. It can't do that.
Everyone at NASA got a big chuckle out of it.
But, was Curiosity's radiation-hardened memory hacked? Has NASA been receiving manipulated images and data since 2012? Do they know it? Are they compensating for it?
In forensically analyzing Curiosity's panoramas, we found thousands of instances of false image embedding and manipulation at the micro-pixel level. We also found millions of beings. While the preceding pictures were artist renderings, this guy may be real. This picture was supposedly taken through someone's back door window on Earth a few years ago. These renderings are of a race of extraterrestrial biological entities called, for lack of a better term, the Greys. The Greys have supposedly been visiting Earth for eons, abducting people, like Betty and Barney Hill, for testing, impregnating women with hybrid babies, killing and mutilating people for their body parts, which the Greys use as food, and, in general, being nasty.
With the possible exception of the little window peeper, none of the ETs you just saw were real.
This one is. You are seeing a real alien being. For a moment, we'll let that sink in. Here are a few thousand more. We'll talk about these guys in an upcoming video.
Curiosity was cruising around Mount Sharp when it took a somewhat high-res panoramic photograph with its Mastcam camera that was built and is operated by Malin Scientific, a NASA contractor. Printed out, the panorama is roughly 12 feet by 6 feet in size. Our software allows us to zoom into areas as small as 2 or 3 pinheads, and extract a somewhat usable picture, depending on the lighting, and how far the rover was from the subject, sometimes a mile or more away. Also, Greys stay in the shadows, in cave, and under their membranes, which appear to be hard on one side and pliable on the other. Greys can be seen sticking their heads up through them, and also wallowing in sand, or their food soak, with just their faces showing.
These are air nozzles. They connect to a huge network of pipes and tubes that run everywhere. The underground piping network, air tubes, and nozzles must form an atmospheric and pressurization system in relatively small, closed areas, inside and out. No one is ever very far from a nozzle. We call this guy our robot in a wheelchair. It is obviously a mobile atmospheric delivery automaton. Note the interface on the back to access the main system. This is a very interesting photograph. An emergency vehicle, complete with colored lights on top, and big tires, and a person with lots of hair, and wearing air tanks, who is too big to fit into the vehicle. We think Air Tank Man is a human. Where have we seen a large, hairy, air tank guy before?
This is another vehicle that we believe, based on what is going on near it, is a mixing tank for the Greys' food soak. It is decorated in 60s hippie, flower power style. This is a small section of the piping system that goes to every populated area of the planet. We wonder where the factory supplying the pipe is located. We also wonder whether this teenage Grey wearing a baseball cap and holding a humanoid baby is babysitting, or working on the piping system. Maybe Baby is a nozzle fixer, and the Grey is a cap model.
If these are pictures of life on Mars, and not of some other planet embedded in Curiosity's files to give the illusion of Mars, the atmospheric system enabled by the tubes is vital, which is why they are everywhere. The walls, ceilings, furniture, beds, there are 300 beings to a bed, everything is built out of tubes and membranes. Since the Greys' skin is also their digestive system, we surmise the membranes afford radiation or ultraviolet protection the Greys need.
ARPANET, the forerunner of the Internet, was set up and run by the Pentagon. The Freedom of Information Act allowed the declassification of millions of files, some having to do with the Greys, who, reportedly, had a working relationship with the U.S. government, where they would provide us with technology, and we would provide them with humans. As the story goes in the files, supposedly authored as reports by military personnel involved with the Greys had a problem.
Whether it was a genetic weakness, nuclear war, space flight radiation exposure, or something else, the Greys' digestive apparatus shut down species-wide, and atrophied. Reportedly, the Greys began experimenting on Earth animals first, and then humans. This is from where the anal probing stories emanate. The digestive systems of Earth animals were of special interest to them because if theirs didn't work, they needed to find and figure out how to use digestive systems that did.
Reports indicate that Grey research led them to discover that bodily soft tissues, such as throat, eyes, genitals, colon, rectum, tongue, lips, and gums, of two Earth-specific species were repositories of exactly the vitamins, hormones, and other ingredients that, when processed and mixed, with blood and hydrogen peroxide, and used as a body soak, would sustain them.
Grey, self-genetically modified skin, absorbs the nutrients and later passes the waste out of their bodies. Abductees often refer to the foul stench of their captors. The two earthly species the Greys found usable? Cows, and humans.
But cows were big packages. Ineffective body part shipping containers. Using humans was much more logical. The Greys allegedly explained all this to the U.S. military, and so, the decision was made. In exchange for Grey technology, the Greys had permission to use a limited number of humans. Some sources say the limited number turned out to be around 15,000 humans over 10 years.
The body of Sergeant Jonathan P. Louette, stationed at the White Sands Missile Test Range in 1956, was found 3 days after an Air Force major had witnessed his abduction by a disc-shaped object about 0200 one morning. Louette's genitals had been removed, rectum cored out in a surgically precise plug up to the colon. Also removed were his eyes, gums, tongue and throat. No blood remained in his body, yet there was no vascular collapse. There were indications Louette was alive during at least some of the procedures, almost certainly to stimulate hormone production.
Ancient ARPANET papers state that in 1973, the government told the Greys to use only cattle, no more humans. After skirmishes with unarmed Greys that left as many as 60 military personnel dead, the Greys capitulated. And, with the assistance of the U.S. military, and some cleverly disguised helicopters, the Greys were fed. Hence, the spate of cattle mutilations, all over the country, from 1973 to 1991, the year the government finally told them to leave the planet.
And leave they did, but not before abducting several humans to take with them. We believe those humans were used by the Greys to genetically engineer a race of small, or mini, humanoids, surgically or chemically lobotomized, to make them willing to die, so the Greys can use their body parts in their food soak.
Each photograph used in this report is forensically analyzed to make sure it is a base image, the primary image, and not some or all of an embedded, false image. Which, believe it or not, these photographs from NASA are full of.
The forensic exam includes micro-pixel analysis, search for embedded images, noise level scanning which indicates copying, metafile analysis, layer-by-layer outline analysis and microscopic examination.
All of the images in this video were extracted by zooming into Murray Butte. Mars has many buttes, but Murray Butte is a real butte. It is full of surprises that you simply cannot see until you take a very close look.
Hello. I am Fred. Yes, it's pronounced Fred, your atmospheric systems services robot. Welcome to the Hotel Marsifornia. There's plenty of room at the Hotel Marsifornia. Any time of year, you can find it here, such as our coffee shop.
Remember we spoke of 300 to 400 people per bunk? If you have a good monitor, you should be able to see the bunks that make up the back wall of the coffee shop. You can see the colorful blankets and quilts as well as some beings comfortably bedded down for midday nap time. Whether they sleep in these quarters at night, when it is really cold, we don't know.
That's a big stuffed Mickey Mouse.
And that's a big stuffed Goofy. Right next to him.
The air nozzles and piping really stand out. Everywhere one looks on Mars there is an air nozzle, and for good reason. There's no air.
That is a good reason. In Part 2 we will look at flying saucers, automated baby washers, sunbathers, tugboats, and Martian animals. In Part 3 we will cover the green-gray, Barack Obama, NASA astronauts, and membranes. New photographs are constantly being added, so be sure to keep up. Subscribe, like, and ring the bell so you don't miss a thing. Thanks for watching.
Drop and give me 20!